Okay, well, let's jump in. Once again, it's good to see everyone. Welcome to this webinar, Breaking Up with Spreadsheets. Kind of maybe a controversial topic. I know many of us, myself included, use spreadsheets a lot. And what would a world be like if we weren't using them so much? We are going to find out as I demo many of the features today of a product called Zoho Creator. But let's talk in general about what we'll cover, and I'll introduce myself as well. We're going to talk about the quirks of spreadsheets. We've been using them for a long time, many of us. We're going to talk about how Zoho Creator solves them, how we can break free from the use of spreadsheets. I'm going to give you several examples of simple Creator applications that replace common spreadsheets, and lots of ways to get started. At the end, we're just talking about tons of ways that you could go work in Zoho Creator. So who am I? If you don't know me, my name is Christopher Mowers. I'm the Zoho developer team lead at AspenTech CRM. I am a developer. I am I have and continue to build applications from code, me and my text editor kind of a thing. But I'll tell you that Zoho Creator is my favorite application on the Zoho platform. And one of my favorite things to do is to build applications in Zoho Creator, something requiring no code or very little code. And I am therefore a certified Zoho Creator developer. I am also a PMI certified citizen developer practitioner. We'll talk a little bit more about citizen development and what that means in this context. And I specialize professionally in the design and development of software in low-code environments like Zoho Creator. Let's talk a little bit about spreadsheets. Major spreadsheet applications such as Microsoft Excel, some of you maybe are familiar with or remember Lotus 123, and others have been around since the 1980s. This is a very mature and broadly used technology. Spreadsheets comes from the financial sector. Prior to being in digital format, it was literally a large grid piece of paper, right? And it was used for a lot of financial type activities. But we've since transformed the spreadsheet from much more than that to doing much more than traditional spreadsheets. In addition to finance, data analytics, project management, operations activities, inventory management. I mean, this flexible sort of grid environment has become very popular for all sorts of things, and in many ways has served us well. But I think all of you on this webinar have been in a situation where you felt the limitations of a spreadsheet tool. And what we're going to talk about today is this idea of migrating from a spreadsheet environment into a low-code environment. And I know if you haven't heard the term low-code, and maybe you've heard me say it at least a couple times on this webinar, I hope that's not an intimidating thing. It's definitely not something for you to run the other way from, thinking like, oh, I have to be a developer, I have to be a programmer, I have to know programming languages. Quite the opposite. The fact is, Zoho Creator is designed for people to get into having zero coding knowledge. A low coding environment really is a drag and drop interface that allows you to build various structures that support data, like a spreadsheet. In fact, you could argue that spreadsheet programs like Excel were sort of the original or prototypical low code development environments. I don't know that anyone who developed those software programs had that in mind when they were first building them, but it is true, especially when you consider things like advanced formulas and you consider VBA and macros, that Excel really is a low-code development tool. And so moving into something like Creator is not an insurmountable challenge, and it is designed absolutely for the business user. It is not designed first and foremost for the professional developer in mind. So when you hear this term low code, don't be alarmed. This is for you. I promise. It is for you. So some of the problems with spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are first and foremost a local tool for the individual user. You have a file on your computer, you have a piece of software on your computer that opens that file, you edit it there. Now, yes, we have the cloud now. We have this cloud data storage. You have, Microsoft OneDrive or Dropbox, or even if you're in Zoho Sheets and you're using WorkDrive, yeah, there are shared spreadsheets now. So we don't have as many file versioning issues and things like that, but the tool is still really designed with the individual in mind. It still is really challenging to scale the use of a spreadsheet. Complex formulas can be confusing to write and slow to run. If you've ever tried to write complex formulas in Excel, in that little line you get, the little bar, I know that you want to pull your hair out. And then, if you've ever touched macros or VBA, it's even worse. I mean, I don't know if any of you have run macros lately, but Office pretty much freaks out on you saying it's a security risk now when you do that. I mean, it's really just not a technology that I think the spreadsheet vendors want to continue to support in any large degree. And fewer and fewer people are familiar with coding those. The other challenge, though, to spreadsheets is that they're a completely blank canvas, which on one hand is nice, but the big problem is that everyone tends to use them differently. And so your approach to spreadsheets and your coworkers' approach to spreadsheets are completely different. I'm sure many of you, I know I've been in this situation where you take someone's spreadsheet and you basically will have to rewrite it to understand it. Because everyone sort of developed it according to their own mental quirks and the shortcuts they want to take and the way they understand information. And so it's hard to really standardize across an organization. So between versioning issues, access control, sharing, the limitations of advanced features, spreadsheets have not grown with technology in the same way that other platforms like Zoho Creator have. So let's talk about what Creator gives you. It gives you some of the best things about spreadsheets. And I'm going to show you all this in a little bit. It supports a grid-based layout. It has validation tools, formulas, filters, search. You can build reports, all of those things that you like about using spreadsheets for kind of your tabular data. It's there, and you can do it. Some of you may have used Microsoft Access too, or other similar database type tools. And those can be really nice. Access is obviously a very powerful and long-lived program, but it has some of the same limitations that Excel does in terms of being sort of a local file on a local computer. And if you're rather using like an organization-wide database, then you need a DB admin and someone with some serious knowledge to make that thing really work well. And so we bring in the best of databases into Zoho Creator as well. It does support the relational model of data for data integrity. That's not something you need to understand today if you don't, but if you do know what that means, that is helpful. And I'll show you a little bit of that shortly. There's strongly enforced data validation and referential integrity. So you don't have someone's name spelled 3 different ways necessarily. You can control those things. And then advanced search and join capabilities, just like you would have in a tool like Microsoft Access. We get all these additional things though with Creator. It is truly cloud-based. It is a cloud-based product. It is a software application in Zoho's data center that all of your users will access and be pointed to the same source of truth. It is designed to be scaled as more users enter the picture, as more records enter the application, as additional features and functionalities enter the application. Everything that is good about the cloud, Zoho Creator has. You can set permissions and access control just via menu, very simply via menu. If you want different users to see different fields, that is not difficult to configure at all. It has a portal. This is a really nice feature that Creator has. You just enable this portal, and then you can have external users join your application as well as external embedding and sharing of forms. There's very easy integration between other Zoho applications and third-party integration. There's a lot of built-in connections, so you don't necessarily even have to have someone develop that via code. It does have version control now, where you can work on a development version of the application and then roll out the changes to your production version. It supports Deluge, which is Zoho's easy to learn, easy to use 21st century scripting language. Much, much more friendly to the business user and casual coder than something like VBA. Really, really intuitive for those who would want to go there. But like I said, too, there's a lot you can do in Creator without even writing a line of code. Like pretty much everything I'm going to show you today doesn't require any code at all. There is also support for Java and Node.js should you need the kind of power that those full programming languages can bring. Most use cases do not require that, but just know that it's there. Creator can transition into mobile applications via the Zoho Creator app. I mean, all you have to do is download the Zoho Creator app and you have your application on your phone. It's that simple. If your needs are a little bit more complex, there is a mobile SDK. So an application developer, a mobile app developer could interact with your Zoho Creator app in a custom app. And finally, Zia Import. Zia is Zoho's AI solution, and I'm going to show you a little bit of that today too. So for all these and many more features, Creator gives you a lot more than a spreadsheet would give you. So enough talking. Let me show you some things. I'm going to walk you through the creation of a couple applications today, and this is not intended to be an in-depth, step-by-step, here's everything you need to do kind of tutorial. That's not what this is. But I really just want to show you how simple and unintimidating it is to get started in Creator. So we're going to go with a couple of pretty simple examples. I'm going to show off some features, especially some AI features that are really nice. And then we'll wrap up. We'll talk a little bit more about some other things that are possible. So I'm going to create a new Creator application, just a one form application to be my grocery list. Just a very simple sort of, let's think about a tabular, something that would maybe be in a spreadsheet. We can create it from scratch. I'm going to call it grocery list. All right. We create a form from scratch. This is my grocery list. And so this is akin to creating your first tab in Excel. Like if you were going to have columns, these would be the columns. And so just very quickly, I'll run through this. You know, you've got an item, you've got maybe a quantity. This is just, you know, your grocery list. All these different field types are things you could certainly dive into deeply. We're not going to do that today, of course. You know, maybe just have produce, maybe other, and then maybe we just have like I need to name that field. And maybe we just have like a status, like, you know, need and purchase, something like that, like something to just track, like, have we bought it yet, you know. Let's require this one. You can do that, but let's set need as the default. So when we're creating new records, it's just, that's going to be the default. Let's also require a quantity and an item. Now, one thing I always like to do is just change the look of this, because otherwise all Creator apps look the same, and that's kind of boring. So I'll just pick a different one. All right, we have our low-code application. It's done. Your first app is done. We have a form here for entry, and we have a report. And you can change the names of these and all that. But if I just need to add some things, if I need like lettuce, one, produce, I need it. You can see now it lists. That's it. If I need, I don't know, let's say cereal, 2. Okay. So here is a grocery list. let's say though, I had preferred stores, and I wanted to keep a store, like I wanted to list my preferred store so that if I was going multiple places, I knew where I wanted to look for the item. Well, we could add a pick list just like you saw for category, but store is another thing that you might want to update over time. You might want to keep track of over time. And so what we can do, and this is where it's a little more like something like Access than it is like a spreadsheet, is we can actually create a second form. And we'll call that store. And here, let's just say, here you can keep attributes of it too. So you can have, store name, and you can have an address. We'll just use address line 1, city, state. That's all we need. And that's going to be mandatory. And just like that, you can now keep track of stores. No problem. I'll put in 2 here just very quickly. So now you're tracking a second entity. And so if we go to the menu here, if you see all stores, you can see they're here. Back to my grocery list, if I want to start tracking the preferred store now, I go back to the form, can edit it, and I'll add what's called a lookup, which is a reference, right? We can reference the one from the other. And so I'll just drag that in. And grocery list, here it is. I want to show the store, and the store name is what makes sense. And so we'll do that, and let's call this preferred store. Now, go back to our application. You see that I can set a preferred store. And this will point referentially, meaning that from the reports, I can access the details of this store. So if I wanted to go to that report, my grocery list, is what I mean by report, literally my grocery list, I could add the preferred stores there. I could also add the address of the preferred store. And so if I go back to this form, I edit the item to add Fresh Mart here, Harvest Market here, then you'll see the address is listed here, just right along there. And it's not in many places. It's just in one place. It's just stored alongside the Fresh Mart record. And if I go change it one time in the Fresh Mart record, it would change for every record that it's associated with in this list. And this is the power of referential integrity. This is the one of the things that a tool like Creator gives you, is to, if there's some piece of data you need to update, that you just go update it in one place. You don't have it in all these different places. But even more powerful than that, let's say I wanted to group by the preferred store, by the address. I can do that very easily here. I can go, open report properties. And you've got options for filtering, grouping, and sorting, of course. I'm just going to show you a quick grouping. If I want to group by the address, I've got a store name, that'll work too. And we can do something like show a record count. You can see here's the store, and here's the item. And you even get a checkbox to like nicely select everything. So if I bought everything from this store, I could very easily do a mass update to the status just by saying edit and then status is purchased. And then if I had multiple items here, everything would update. If I want to filter out the items I purchased, I can say status, is not purchased. And I can save this filter too to another report. So all of the filtering features that you're accustomed to in Excel or in other spreadsheet programs you have here, but in a much more robust way. Likewise, I can show and hide columns. If I decide some of these I don't really need, I can just like on the fly change this, and you can save those changes or not. You don't need to if you don't want to. It's up to you. I can even, if you're really still missing kind of the spreadsheet feel of this, you can create another report off of the same form. We just do that by creating a report. And there is one here called spreadsheet. Pick grocery list, spreadsheet view. We access this. And look, you can even make updates on the fly, just like you would in a spreadsheet, and save. And that's not a copy of your data, right? This is just an alternative view of the same data, which is one of the things that makes Creator very powerful, is you just have a single data set and you can create all these different, they're called reports, but it's not kind of like just a performative report where you're looking at information only. It's actually a report that you can interact with and you can actually affect the data in. And so this, if you like the feel of a spreadsheet, you've got it here in Creator. So that's a very simple Creator application. Let me show you a little more power here with some import, and so that way we'll see a little bit more data too. Because you don't have to start fresh like I just did. I just wanted you to see, like, in a very simple way, you drag and drop some fields, and before you know it, you've got a bit of an application here. So I worked in coffee for about 12 years and retail coffee, and that business is still near and dear to my heart. And so we're going to look at a coffee staff schedule. It's just in Excel right now. And I have that here. It's just a shift schedule. So I'm just going to import it. And you'll see it just kind of as it is. This is as it is in the spreadsheet too. This is the same. You can see, so I've got like a shift start time, shift end time. I've got a position, employee, and a shift duration. So just looking at this right away, I mean, you could just import this and it would be a single form and that would be fine if that's what you wanted to do. But we can do a little bit more here. And what I really want to show off is the way that you can use actually Zoho's AI to help you build more of an application. And this is kind of a stripped down and simple example, but this can handle more that I'm showing you here. So let's look at the data types of these fields. Time, date times here, that makes sense. Position as a radio button or as a pick list, this could make sense, but it could also be that I want to add more of these over time. So I'm actually going to change this to a single line because I might want to add more. Now that's going to make it really unwieldy, right? Because someone could just type whatever. Let me show you what Zoho does about that though in a moment. Likewise with employee, I definitely don't want a pick list of employees because I for sure will be adding more employees. I'm going to change that to a single line. Now watch this. Go restructure table. For some reason, it does not have recommendations for me, which is interesting because I did this with the same data set earlier and it worked. But let me show you what you can do here. And we'll do another one too, I'll show you. I just want to drag these out into their own forms and create a lookup. because position and employee are really separate things that I'm going to track over time, and I just want to be able to relate them. Because, let's see. So I'm just naming these entities. And this is where the relational model of data comes in. If this is something you have any knowledge of or are interested in, this understanding can be really helpful. But you can see what I could do is I could start to add metadata or data about this data, like position, like this is just going to be its name, but I could have like maybe a base pay rate or certain other related information. Likewise with employee, I could add like email address, phone number, all those things. You just have them in one place, but then you can relate them to the shift in this structure. So I'm going to hit restructure. And you can see now I have 3 tables here. It just took care of it for me with references here. Let's name our application. I'm going to create the application. Once again, usually the first thing I do is change the way this looks. But you can see here's our list of shifts. But if I were to add a new one, these point to the positions, and I have the ability even to add a new one on the fly right here if I added some new position. Likewise with employee, I have these employees, but I could add a new employee on the fly, and it's going to add a record to these other tables here. I mean, I have really a full application here in only a matter of minutes. I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to really, with this one, show you a lot of what's possible. Let's do this one. This is good. Okay. So one of the areas that I think Zoho Creator really shines in is this calendar report that it has. If I look at the shift report here, I'm just going to open in a new tab, the view of this. If I look at the shift report here, it's just kind of a tabular list, right? And that's fine. We might want that for various reasons. But you can add additional reports in the same data set, remember? So let me do that. I'm going to add another report, a calendar report. And we'll base this on the shift table, the shift form. The event title. Oh, I need a good event title. And here's the thing. None of these on their own, none of these fields are really great event titles, right? Like what it's going to say on the calendar. Because employee alone, I really want both the employee and the position. And so let's use a formula, just like you would in Excel, to concatenate. I'm sure many of you have done that. We can do that here too. If we just go to employee, we edit. Oh, not sorry, not employee. If we just go to shift and edit, and it really is as simple as finding formula. And the syntax you can learn, but it's going to be employee plus. I told you I wouldn't code. This isn't really code, but just a little concatenation formula like you would in Excel. Position. So what I'm accessing here are the properties of these other records. So that's the entity name or the table name, form name, and then that's the field. That. Now, if I go to the shift report, I should see those. Let me just make sure that looks right. You can name that field too. I just didn't. Sometimes you have to refresh these. There it is. Just takes a second sometimes. So you can see this is going to be our event title. I'm going to go ahead and rename that while I'm in here so it's not formula. Let's call this shift subject. Oh, back to creating our calendar. It's based on shift. Now we have shift subject, start time, end time, shift calendar. Doesn't normally take this long, but that's all right. As long as we get what we want, right? It's all right if it takes a second. I do have an example if it errors out. Oh, it did create. It did create. Good. All right. So now refresh this. You can see this calendar. This doesn't make much sense as a month view, but if I go to a week view, you can see. So we have a nice visual representation of all of the schedule here, who's working when. I can modify the default view of this to be on a week and to start on a Monday. I can do that just by saying default view is week. Week starts on Monday. And starting 2 weeks out, we have a schedule. This came from the import, no big deal. Can also set up workflow notifications for, like, let's say we wanted to notify ourselves when one of these shifts is starting. That's very easily done without any code. If we just go to workflow and we can schedule something off of shift at the shift start time, we could say, we could say 1 hour before. And when you add an action, this is where you can plug in Deluge, like I was saying, and we can write lots of scripts for Creator. But in this case, it's not actually necessary. We can just use notification. You see there's email, there's SMS, which you can integrate, and then there's notification, which is like an application-based notification. Send an email from our admin user to right now, because there are no email fields on that record, we're just going to notify ourselves. But you could get other emails in this context. And you can write an email here, and you've got HTML access, and you've also got merge fields. So employee, position, all of these fields are here if we needed to write a little mail merge style email. You can attach reports, files. You can set HTML or plain text. Just an example of something that can be fired based on a time or based on an action. All of these things, similar to what you might use something like a macros tool for, but so far in excess of anything that's really possible on that platform here. I mean, basically, any kind of really scripting or automation that you need can trigger off of a date time field or off of a user action in this environment. All right, let's go through another kind of interesting use in this application. There are reporting capabilities here too. And so, one thing I might want to know is I might want to know what I'm expected to pay in labor on a daily basis. And so pay rate is a function of the employee. We don't want to go through every single shift and add how much it's going to cost. So if we go to the employee, and let's just drag in a currency field. Let's call this pay rate. And then I'm going to make a spreadsheet-based view so that I can quickly update this. Wow, I say quickly. This is interesting that it's doing this. Sorry, everyone, but it should be there. Okay, so now you can see we can just very quickly just punch some numbers here and just make it up. All right, save this. Now we've got some pay rates associated with the employee. If you ever needed to change an employee's pay rate, you would change it here and only here, right? Only in the one spot, which is the idea, not on every single line of some complex spreadsheet. Nevertheless, now in this shift report or shift, I can bring in I can do a calculation here. We have a duration, shift duration times employee dot pay rate. Done. And this is going to be shift cost, or let's say shift labor cost. Done. You can reach through the relationship right like that and grab that data, no problem, no problem at all. I'll add it to our report too. Shift labor cost. And so you can see here it is. And if I go and change John's pay rate, this will change. Just like that. Just to the one place is all I need to update that data, right? It gets better because I said I want to understand sort of per day how this works, right? How I'm doing. And so let's create another report. And this is kind of probably more of the report style you're thinking of when you think of the term report. If I go to pivot chart is maybe a little bit of a misleading name. You'll see in a second here. If I go shift, let's just say labor by day. Those of you who have used Zoho Analytics will recognize this. In Creator 6 now, the reporting tool is clearly the analytics engine. It's not 100% of Zoho Analytics, but it is absolutely the things that you like about that environment are here. And so if I just wanted to go by shift start time the day, and then I wanted to sum the shift labor cost, here it is. I think I want to reverse these. Nice about an analytics tool is you can always just kind of change it around. But I do like the bars. Oh, I don't know why it really wants me to do it that way. Let's just try this one more time. We'll go with lines. We'll go with lines. So this shows us a cost by day. And what's nice is we can add, a forecast even. Now on this amount of data, this forecast is probably not going to make sense. But if you had substantial data, it actually would. And then I can save this. And what's nice about this, is now, as the data updates, so does the report, just like that. You can see just like that. Even better is if I also wanted to know kind of by position, Could do that too. Just go here, open the report builder. Let's just duplicate it. Labor by day, by position. And we can add that factor, the position factor, we can add that to color. That's what you do. And you can see now we have, you can see our cashiers are costing us more than our baristas typically. One more thing to show you here is the Power Pages, and Pages are maybe the most underutilized tool in analytics, but they can really bring an application together. And in this one, it's going to be kind of like a dashboard. So we're just going to bring our components on. Let's just make like a home page here. And you can see there are lots of sort of KPI type widgets and all sorts of things. But I just want to bring on a couple of reports. I just want to bring on the shift calendar. I already know this is going to be too short. So I'm going to change it from auto to 500 pixels. I just know that already, that it's going to look weird. And then let's also bring on our labor by day. And let's also bring on a labor by day by position, just as an example. And so now if we go to this home page, and I can move this so this is the thing that loads, you can see we start with the shift calendar for the week, and I could look for the day too and see what's going on. And look at my labor by day report, my labor by position report. The other thing that these pages will do that I'm not going to show you this today, but the other thing they'll do is they do support global parameters, right? So if I wanted to look for a particular range of days or something like that, I could have that set globally on this page, and all the various components could adjust to meet those needs. That's a little more complex to set up, and I'm definitely not going to demo it today, but just know that that sort of thing is possible with pages. And there's a lot more too that can happen on pages that that are really strong, really powerful, searching and record creation and all sorts of really nice things. All right, I think I've exhausted a lot of this this schedule app here, but you can see that, I mean, what, in a matter of 15 minutes with a simple data import, we're well on our way to an application here. I want to show you one more thing, and we're not going to build out a whole additional application, but I just want to show you a more sophisticated import and the kinds of things that that Creator can do. And so I have a sample data set of invoice line items, which if you've dealt with those, you know that there can be a lot going on there. And let's just import it. So you can see, invoice number, invoice date, company name, and there's tons of repeated data here. Whenever you see the repeated data like this, you know this is a really good candidate to have multiple forms in a Creator app, because then you could have referential integrity. You could just reference this company name, and then if something needed to change about this company, you would just go change it on its record. If you've used tools like Zoho CRM or Zoho Books or Zoho Desk or any, this is baked into many of the Zoho applications. So it's not something that's unique to Creator by any means. But what's nice in Creator is that you can do it. You can use whatever you want, or you can do it for whatever you want. What I wanted to point out were a couple things here. These sort of smart suggestions that are really nice. If we look at contact name, because this is assuming it's coming from a spreadsheet that maybe hasn't been maintained well. So look, we've got Olivia Davis and Oliver Davis. Is that correct? Or is this a mistake, right? And so that's for you to determine, and let's say, yeah, it is wrong. It should all be Olivia Davis. We can simply replace. So you can see a lot of the other inconsistent options here, like fix duplicate rows, merge columns, explore and edit. There's lots of lots of things that can be done. This is built on a tool Zoho has called Zoho Data Prep, which is a standalone tool in its own right, and it's also built into Zoho Analytics. Contact phone, standardized phone numbers. Maybe you've got phone numbers in a bunch of different formats. You want to fix that up. So we could do it a couple different ways. We could say, in this case, we're just going to say, we're going to add a country's calling code. We're going to add the US code. That would be one approach, right? I mean, you could do this different ways. And then description is also kind of interesting too. This is my product. And just because I used sample data, you can see like, it's just questioning this. It's like, is this really right? Do you really have BBB and BBBB and BB? You know, I mean, you would get different data errors depending on your data set. And this is just what this is giving me. But it helps with a lot of this cleanup in ways that I know many of us have used Excel formulas and things of that nature, and sorting and filtering and all that, find, replace. This is just a lot nicer. It's just a lot nicer. You can run the restructure table on this too. This one is a little complex, and the suggested does some of it, like it pulls out the GLs. That's nice, right? Like you would want to manage your GL accounts separately. Pulls out these descriptions. It sees clearly their products. It's pulling out the invoice and company from the invoice lines. That's nice too. You probably want to separate this out even a little bit more. Like from here, we could pull out company. Actually, I think what I would do is I would pull out contact name would be a reference, create a lookup, you know, move the other fields, contact phone, and then from here even further, I'd probably abstract company name, because a company is going to be separate from the contacts. And so again, with a fairly complex data set and very little time, you restructure this, and you've got, this is a table of invoice lines, you know, with references to these other entities that can be managed separately and yet linked. And invoice data, something like that. Oh, it's a date time issue. I didn't clean my dates. That's fine. But anyway, it is particular about date time format. That is something you need to clean up, and I didn't do it, but because I wasn't going to import this. But you can see there are some quirks, obviously, no question. Nevertheless, it is incredibly rapid to build an application customized to your business that has far more power and extensibility and access control and availability than a spreadsheet on your computer. And those are a lot of the reasons why I really enjoy working with Zoho Creator. Let me get back to the slides here. Just a little more I want to talk about with you. Where do we get started? If you're looking at all that, wow, it's really great. There's a lot we could do, but it might be a lot to take on. And believe me, I just honestly scratched the surface on features. Start small with the spreadsheets you already use. Try to import some data, or try to maybe recreate something. That's where I would get started. Just one form, one report, and just see how it works. You can drag and drop your way to a low-code application that way. Look at adding multiple reports per form, like I showed you. You know, have one that's in a spreadsheet view, one that's in a calendar view, or try out the timeline view, or try out the pivot table. There are lots of different reports you can play with. But use multiple reports per form, so you can see how you can view your same data set in multiple ways, and explore too those pivot charts using analytics. You can also experiment with user access control and sharing. I didn't show you that, but it is very simple. It's menu driven. You just pick the users of your organization and you give them the permissions that you want to give them. If you want to level up a little bit, you can integrate with a Zoho or third-party data source. Didn't show you that at all, but it plays very nicely with a lot of data sources these days. CRM in particular is really great. I mean, you can basically have a view to your CRM data in Creator without having to do any syncing. You can create and view CRM records in Creator with zero sync. It's really nice. Others require some syncing or even some custom development, but it's really fantastic what can be done these days with the data integrations. You can invest a little time learning the relational model of data if you're not familiar with that, and then you can try using lookups and building out these more complex structures that are highly maintainable. Check out portals for external users, or even dive deeper into workflows and scripting. I'm not going to read all these, but even deeper dives, other features. I don't know if you want to screenshot this or save it. You're going to get the recording too, of course. But all these things can be looked at. You know, you can pass in custom URL parameters into a form to make it behave a certain way. You can use the new no-code AI modeling tools that Creator has now. We didn't talk about that, but you can build, you know, decision-based artificial intelligence machines in Creator. It has optical character recognition. It has augmented reality as well. You can use widgets, which are a really customizable UI tool, but that does require a professional level of coding to accomplish that. But yeah, all these things and more are things that you can get into all in this one application, Zoho Creator. So just for more inspiration here, things that you could look at trying to do: centralizing your data across departments, you know, embracing digital forms rather than paper forms, dynamic checklists, tracking process, enhancing productivity. You can automate your repetitive tasks and workflows. You can also generate powerful reports and analytics for data-driven decision making. Again, all in this one application of Zoho Creator. It's all here, and it can all be done here with very minimal coding. How can we help? Well, we design and build Creator applications. So if you're looking at this and you're saying like this is great, but you know, I really either don't want to do it myself or simply don't have the bandwidth to do it myself, which is totally understandable. We can do it too. We can do it, and we can teach you how to use it, and we can work with you on it. We can also train you on all of these features. We can give you customized training to your business process if you do want to do more of this yourself and just need some help. We're good with that too. And then finally, we can work with you as you make continuous improvements on your Creator application. You know I mentioned citizen development in the beginning, and if that's not a term you've heard, it is worth looking into. There's a report from Gartner that came out a couple of years ago, expecting that by this year there would be 4 times as many active citizen developers in the as professional developers in the workforce. And the idea of citizen development, very simply put, is this idea that you have technical business users in the organization that are not classically trained in software development or software engineering, but nevertheless are building these relatively small but maintainable and understandable applications using low-code tools like Zoho Creator. And we're seeing that more and more, that it's a thing that organizations can take on. It's better than sort of the shadow IT approach of having software tools such as spreadsheets or others in the organization, not sanctioned by the organization and not governed by the organization. Rather, it's something that you can do yourself, and we can help. And so we work with people in that way too. And we can help you make these continuous improvements, and then take on the extra workload when you're not in a position to handle it. This space is also expected to grow 20% this year, according to Gartner. So if you haven't heard about it, you soon will, I'm sure. And we're in a position to help you explore that. Okay. So with that, we'll open it up for any questions you all may have. Do you have one? If I wanted to show a total and an average on a report, could I do that? We know that Excel, that's just one of the things you can do in Excel, to have like a sum at the bottom, right? Or something like that. And you didn't see that in Creator. But let me show you. It's actually really nice, the way that Creator handles it. Let me get back into our coffee shop app. So if I go configure fields here, let's say I want to sum and average the labor cost and maybe sum the durations. So we go to duration and I hit total, go to labor cost, I hit total and average. You've also got min and max there, as you can see. Then when I refresh this report, now if I go show summary, this came up. Here's my total, here's my average and total. And then if I wanted to filter, like if I wanted to say only cashiers, position is filter that down, and then these do update. So it's you know, it's not like at the bottom the way it is at Excel where you put it manually with your own formula, but it's built into the UI actually. You just have to enable it. So Zoho has applications for almost everything. Why would I use Creator? It's a good question. You know, if you're on Zoho 1, which I'm sure many of you are, you have CRM. You don't need to build a CRM, you have one. You have desk, you don't need to build a ticketing system, you have one. You don't need to build an accounting system, you have one, etc. And so when is Creator the right solution is a good question. And it's different for every organization, of course. But here's what I think about. First of all, the Creator, the customizability in Creator is unparalleled. So if you need, you know, if you're finding that even the customizability in a tool like Zoho Desk is not cutting it for your very, very particular use case, then Creator could get it done. Now, it is more development work, certainly, and that's always going to be the case. You know, if Zoho has built a purpose-built application, then, you know, rebuilding that is always going to take more time. But in the right circumstances, it could make sense to use, especially if there's only some subset of the features that you really need. So customizability is a key thing. Another case where we use Creator a fair amount is bridging the gap in functionality. I'd say, you know, many of our Creator implementations actually, they're standalone applications in their own right, but they're designed to facilitate some process for another application, like, you know, some sort of custom pricing application running from CRM, but being able to do things that are not possible in CRM, or, you know, I built one that facilitated a bidding process where, you know, something was sent out to various external people and then they responded and then that was listed and evaluated before it came back into CRM. We've built tools to help scheduling where scheduling features are absent in some of the built-in Zoho applications. So use cases like that, extending the platform Creator can be really good for too. But it is a good application in its own right as well. The other thing that I've seen a fair amount of with Creator recently is I think small to medium-sized businesses are finding that they can get by with Creator as their ERP. If they need an ERP, like if they're at that level, but for their particular business, Zoho's built-in applications are not right, the Creator really can be that ERP solution. And that's another thing to explore too, if you're interested in that. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much for your time, everyone. I hope this was helpful. You can expect an email from me with the recording, and feel free to get in touch with us. Our website is right here on the slide if there's anything else we can help you with. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.